It's the weekend and you have financial questions that need answering. That can only mean one thing. It's time for Jill on Money, the show that takes the mystery out of your finances. Here's your host, Jill Schlesinger.
Welcome, welcome. It's Jill on Money, and here we are. It is time to take the mystery out of your financial life. It's so easy to do that because all that it requires is for you to stay engaged with us and ask your financial questions. That's how simple it is. We are here to serve you. All you need to do is go to our website, jillonmoney.com, jillonmoney.com, and click the Contact Us button. And I think that it's important to remember that every single one of you has a different financial situation. So that's why, even if it sort of sounds similar, it's better if you come to us and ask us these questions. We'll get you on the air and we dig a little deeper. You'll notice every single time we get someone on the air, there's a fascinating story behind the question. Sometimes we uncover things that even you didn't know were important. So just go to the website, jillonmoney.com, and ask that question. Click the Contact Us button, and we'll be happy to help you out. Today, we are starting with a question from Julie, who's on the line from New Hampshire. Hello, Julie. How can we help you out?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited. My question I wrote in about was, does it make sense or is it okay to get a home equity line of credit to buy a piece of land?
Tell us more. You own a piece of property already?
Correct. Yes, we own a house. The little bit of background is I've made maybe not great financial decisions over the last few years. So I want to make sure I'm towing the line a bit more. And I also have a new financial advisor who seemed to think that was okay to do, but I got ghosted by my last one.
What?
So I'm still just a little uncertain.
Oy. Ghosted by your advisor. That's bad. Was it someone who was ready to retire, kind of? What do you think happened?
My understanding was that he was starting his own practice, moving from a big firm to his own. Talked a good talk, said, here, give me the check for the IRAs. They got put in a settlement fund account, and then I just never heard anything back.
Oh my God.
Somebody from a different state reached out to me, and long story short, I think he did some things that got in trouble with the state. All right, so good. That's
a good stroke of fortune. All right, let's go back. Well, I'll get some of that information in a second. How much is your primary residence worth, Julie?
According to Zillow, from what I see, it's about $1 million.
In New Hampshire? That's got to be a freaking palace, no?
No, it's not. A few years ago, we bought it. It's a fixer-upper on a lake. That's the key. But we bought it for $535 4 years ago.
4 years ago? You
Mm-hmm.
bought it for $500. That's unbelievable. So all those donkeys from Boston moved up there, and you got the lake and you got the good thing. Yep. And this is great. Okay. So on the $1 million property, how much of a mortgage remains?
I have a mortgage of $460,000. Mm-hmm. And the interest is at 2.875%, and that's a 30-year fixed.
Oh, brother, we can't touch that. That's just too beautiful. You got $1 million house. What's with a piece of land?
So the land property itself that our house is on is very small. We live in New Hampshire and we like to play outside. So we have boats, we have snowmobiles. There's a jet ski coming. We just don't have space on our land to kind of park these different things. We make it work for now, but the other piece is it's a nice house on a nice lake, but really I'd like to have a 20 piece of acreage and build our own house down the road. Nothing anytime soon, but just thinking about 10, 15, 20 years down the road.
So, Julie, how old are you?
I am 40.
And you have a spouse?
Yes.
And how old is the spouse?
He is 49.
Okay. You got kids?
2.
How old are they?
Ages 9 and 11.
And they're in public or private school right now?
Public.
Is there any money set aside for their college educations?
I am just trying to get all of that organized now. So I just opened up 529 accounts for them both.
So we got the $1 million house. How much do you guys make for income right now, you and your husband?
300,000.
What are you doing for retirement planning besides giving random advisors checks that end up in cash?
I have a 403B that, at least over the last few years, I've maxed out. There's about $310,000 in it now. It was bigger, but that's where it is now. Mm-hmm. Over the last couple of years, I've opened up an IRA for myself and for my husband. So the combined amount of those IRAs is about $43,000 right now. Mm-hmm. And I have it set up to contribute the max yearly for both of us.
And what about your husband? Does he have a retirement plan through work?
No, he stays at home.
Oh, he's a stay-at-home dad?
He is, yes.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Okay, got it. Any other money, non-retirement money, like money that's, let's first do the emergency reserve fund. How much in there?
About $50,000.
All right, that seems good. And what about a brokerage account?
So I just opened that up because I realized I wasn't saving enough. At least I didn't think I was saving enough to think about retiring down the road. So I have about $5,000 in that now. And my plan is to just automatically deposit $1,000 a month.
Okay. That sounds like a good plan. When you look at forgetting about the vacant piece of land right now, what do you think the $300,000, you've got your income, you're putting money, you're maxing out your 403B, you're putting money into your IRAs, you're going to add money to your brokerage account. When you really look at what you spend, what do you think that number is on a monthly basis or an annual basis?
So our monthly expenses I think we're about $7,000 a month.
Okay. The land purchase, what would it cost you to buy this piece of property that you want to buy?
So looking around for that size acreage, I think it would be about $200,000.
When you look forward about retirement and we think about saving for retirement, how long do you think you'd like to be able to work? When you consider, like, I'm going to scale back some, or I'm going to really be done, at what point will that occur, do you think?
So my goal is to be able to cut down on my hours so I can work just enough for health insurance at 60, with full retirement at 65.
Okay. And would you be entitled to any pension benefit?
No, I will not.
We'll get back to Julie's question in just a second. Hey, during the break, here's an idea. Go to the JillOnMoney.com website and bookmark it. How easy is that? Just bookmark it. And then when you have a question, you can go back and, of course, while you're there, sign up for the free weekly newsletter. It comes out every Friday. Mark does a great job. Okay, we will be right back.
Back to Jill on Money, where Jill Schlesinger helps you take the mystery out of your finances.
You're back. It's Jill on Money, the program that attempts to take the mystery out of your financial life. And as we go through the weeks here in the spring, and now we've got tax season behind us, it's so good. But I know that there's a lot of anxiety around the inflation rate, around what's going on in the economy. Many people have started to contact us and talk about job offers and what's really the smart thing to do. Whatever the question is in your financial life, we'd love to hear from you. Again, it's so easy. Just go to jillonmoney.com and click the Contact Us button. And by the way, not only do we have our free weekly newsletter on the site, but we also have a link to subscribe to 2 of our other broadcasts, the Jill on Money and the Eye on Money podcast. Both of them are right there, right on the website. And if you've never done the podcast thing, it's really easy. Just think of it as it's like getting the radio show on demand whenever I want it. So we have a link, and I encourage you to do that because the world of podcasting is kind of vast and wonderful. So you'll want to check that out. Okay, right now we are going back to Julie from New Hampshire. She wanted to know whether or not it was okay to buy a piece of land. I love being asked these kinds of questions. So here's our response to Julie. Is there anything else? Is there any debt that's outstanding beyond the mortgage or anything else bubbling around in your financial lives?
So one of my maybe not great financial decisions was when we bought this house. It was a bit on a whim. And so we hadn't even listed our other house. And somebody said, hey, you can take out a loan from your 403B for a down payment. So I do have that. And that's about $29,000. And I've budgeted out to pay that off within the next 12 months.
That's not the worst thing.
Not the worst thing? Okay.
No. I mean, I'm not happy about it, but it's not the worst thing. Did you sold the previous property though? Right?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And is all the work that you want on your current home done? Like you said, it was a fixer-upper. Is there more money to spend to get it where you want it to be?
Yes. And that's another conversation that my husband and I have been having more recently, that we do need to do some work to the outside. And that probably just based on some water leakage needs to happen this year.
Okay. How much do you think it would cost to do what you need to get done?
Well, he's pretty handy, so his labor will help out the cost on that. But we're thinking maybe $40,000.
Oh, that's not bad, especially compared with the $200,000 you're asking me to contemplate taking out of your children's mouths so that you can have more land to park your toys.
Yes.
You basically want to pay $200,000 for a small shed to put your crap in, or a large one, right?
Yeah, that's about right. Exactly.
This is insane. If you thought borrowing for your 403B to get you into your new home was a bad idea, this makes that look brilliant. This is such a bad idea that I'm going to go down on the mat and beg you not to do it. I'm on my knees right now, metaphorically, because I don't want you to do this. First of all, you're in great shape right now, because you obviously have put yourself in a place finally where you're starting to save a lot of money. I have this sense that you have a career that kind of took a while to get going, but you're kicking it now. $300,000 is a lot of money, and you're putting money away for your retirement, which is fantastic. And you are now opening the 529 plans and the brokerage account. Like, you now have 20 years to kick some ass. You can do this. Okay. There's no doubt in my mind that you can kind of do what you need to do, as long as you don't screw up. And a screw up at age 40 is much more significant than those at 30 and 25. And I think this would be a complete folly to spend $200,000 on a piece of property, get a home equity line of credit, which frankly is going to start costing more money as interest rates rise, at a time where you, instead of putting money into your brokerage account, your retirement account, you'll be paying for this gosh darn piece of property. And, it's going to start costing money, and there are going to be taxes involved. And then you're going to say you want to build a new house. If you want to do this, if you really decide I need a bigger piece of property, you know what you should do? Sell your house and buy a bigger piece of property with a house on it. That's what you should do. You'll pay more for a mortgage. It's going to suck because you'll lose that great rate. But that is what you should do, because this other stuff is nonsense. Because you're not even getting enough out of this property. It is really a $200,000 large piece of property to house your toys. You got $500,000 of equity, and go find yourself a better house. Then you don't have to do the work. But essentially, go buy I would rather you buy $1.5 million house and property and start that way than to spend $200,000. Like, it's not improvable at this moment in your life. You cannot afford to actually do anything with this land right now. That's the problem. And it's not even contiguous to your house, right? It's not like you're saying to
No,
me,
it
it's a
wouldn't be.
but if it's an abutting lot, there are some reasons to do it. But if it's not, then what are we doing here?
We would be very happy staying where we are for the next 15 years. So this is exactly what I needed to hear. So I really
Oh,
appreciate it.
I try to do it with a little bit of saltiness, but I really do want the best for you. I want your children to go to school. I would like that. And I just think you're going to have so much more flexibility. I don't know what's going to happen. I know, Mark, if you're running these numbers, I know you're a little bit worried about that they're underfunded on retirement, but I think they can do it if you don't take a misstep over the next 20 years. I think that you can really get on track to sock away a lot of money. Is there any thought that perhaps your husband would go back to work after the kids, get out of high school? And, what's your sense of that?
I am not sure what he would do in that direction. He's been dabbling a bit in starting up a business that he can do from the house, but that hasn't taken off at this point. So, and I work long days, and it's nice to come home to dinner. I will say.
Oh,
that.
yeah. How's the laundry? Does he do laundry? Because that's big
Yes,
for
he
me.
does. Yes, he does the laundry too.
What's the one thing he does that you say, there's no way I'll ever do that? Like, is it laundry? Is it vacuuming? What do you think it is?
Yeah, it's laundry. I try to put my hand in the laundry pile. He's like, no, this is me. So
Yes, I like doing laundry myself. Anyway, Julie, don't buy the land. Keep working. Put the money away. Where did you open the brokerage fund where you plan to put $1,000 a month?
So I did it the same place as my IRAs in Vanguard.
Great. No advisor anymore, or is there a new advisor? I forgot.
Well, so I did bring in. So I just wasn't sure about doing Roth conversions and things like that in the IRA. So I did look for a fee-only financial planner.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a couple of meetings with him. And part of the reason I called is I brought up this land idea. He's like, "Oh, that's not a bad idea."
Oh,
like,
my
really?
God, what a moron!
I kind of think it is.
Yeah, you see, you knew better.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
But then his other piece was, I'll do the financial planning, and then you can bring all of your accounts over to us, and we can manage those. And that's because I got ghosted by the last one. I was a little leery of that. So
I think that's, I mean, look, a fee-only planner doesn't mean they won't charge you or try to get to manage your money. It just means they're not going to charge commissions. So that's number one. Number two, you don't really need that. If you're going to have your account at Vanguard has the Vanguard Personal Service Advisor, which can help you just with the investment stuff if you want, and can give you a little financial planning. But I can tell you right now, as long as you don't do this land deal, you can keep doing what you're doing and not hire anyone to help you. You can keep doing it. And if you feel weak at any point, or conversely, by the way, if you get an opportunity, I've heard a lot about people in these kinds of places, like in these small communities, right? You live near a lake where you kind of know when someone's putting a house up for sale before it goes on the market. And if you get that little sense, like someone says to you, Julie, Joan and Jerome are selling their house, and we know you want a bigger house, you should go talk to them. If you get that kind of opportunity, I'm way more interested. So you call us back when you get that big house opportunity?
I will. Absolutely.
Okay. Do you have a question about a purchase, land, house, something like that? We'd love to hear from you. Just go to JillOnMoney.com, click the Contact Us button, ask your question. Don't forget to let us know if you'd like to join us on the air. We'll do the rest. We'll be right back.
Do I invest here? Should I put my money there? Jill Schlesinger can help you. Back to Jill on Money.
You're back. It's Jill on Money, and we are answering your financial questions. We just answered one about buying land, but sometimes it's buying a house. Sometimes it's a question about, should I fund my retirement or my kids' college education? We don't really care. Anything remotely financial, we'd love to get you going on the next best track that you can find. Okay, right now we're going to talk to Portia from California. Portia, welcome to the program. What can we do for you?
I have a handful of questions I'd love to ask you.
So let's start with number one.
Starting with, is the pension worth it? I've been in a county job for the last almost 3 years. I need to be with them 5 years to get a pension, which looks like it'll be about $500 a month. It's hard to turn down money. It's also really hard to hang in there.
How much do you earn there?
I earn about $75,000 a year, and it's not my primary source of income.
Oh, it's not?
No, I have some real estate.
Okay. How old are you, Portia?
I am 60.
Do you like being there or what? What's the story with this job?
I like being there as long as I don't have to go into the office, and I know that's going to be coming to an end.
Oh, I see. Essentially, you need 2 more years to get the $500 a month, right?
Yes.
Let's talk more about other stuff coming in. So you said you've got rental property. Tell us more about that.
I'm in California, so prices are astronomical. I just refinanced 2 properties. One is now at 2.8 and the other is at 3. 30-year fixed on both.
Okay, so let's talk about the 2.8% mortgage. What is that property worth?
About $880,000-900,000.
So what is the outstanding mortgage amount?
About $300,000.
It's fully rented, right?
Correct.
What do you receive in rent? Let's say, give me the real number, not the depreciation one. Like, what do you collect a month net of your expenses?
Let me think for a quick sec. It rents for $3,100. The monthly payment is now about $12. It's a condo. HOA dues are about $700. Property taxes, I think, are close to $12,000 a year. $11,000 a year.
Okay.
So $1,000 a month.
So I'm looking at that. So I'm looking at, like, honestly, you're kind of like sort of breaking even on this, no?
Yes.
Should we raise our rent?
Well, it was empty for a couple of months last year. Someone got in on a year lease at the end of the year, so they're going to be in there until the end of the year.
All right, so that's that. So that one is basically break even and a tax positive. What about the second property, the one you refinance at 3%? How much is that worth?
That one is a 4-plex. And it's probably worth, I'm guessing, 1.7. And it brings in about $10,000 a month.
Wow. Wait a second. What's the mortgage outstanding on the 1.7 valuation?
The mortgage outstanding on that is about $5,000.
And the $10,000 a month is a gross or a net, do you think?
That's a gross.
We got a bunch of expenses. What do you think it whittles down to net?
$7,000.
Can you live on that $7,000 a month? Forgetting about the first property since it's a break even, and you're bringing in $7,000 a month, forgetting about your salary, on that $7,000 a month, could you support yourself?
Barely.
Barely. Okay. What do you think your real expense number is?
Closer to 10.
Okay, great. And now I'm going to ask you other fun things. Tell me about other investments that you have. What do you have? Do you have any retirement plans?
Yeah, I'm maxing out my 457B plan at work this year. So that's going to be, I think, 7 something. The 401A has about 250,000 and other investment accounts totaling about 25, 30.
Are those non-retirement or retirement when you say the 25 or 30,000?
Primarily non-retirement.
How about just plain old boring emergency reserve fund?
Probably about 20,000.
And so other stuff going on. You've got the rental properties, you've got your emergency reserve, which is a little light, but it's okay because you do have cash flow. I mean, given that you are earning $75,000 a year, are you maxing out your retirement contribution because you don't really need all of that money?
I am.
Okay. When do you think you have to go back to work for real, like in person, many days a week?
I'm thinking probably July.
Let's say you were to bail out of this job and you said, forget it. I don't care about the $500 a month. Do you think you could get another job?
No, probably not.
And would you? No, not necessarily. Like, it wouldn't be so easy. It would be like, all right, I'm going to just pull the plug. We'll be done. Right?
I'm thinking so, yeah.
What's the Social Security situation? What are you looking at as a benefit in the future?
I think the benefit of my own is about $1,800 a month. I've got an option of taking a former husband's, but I I don't know anything really about that, and I haven't investigated it just because I think I'd either need to cut way back or stop working to avoid some kind of offset with the salary.
Okay. So your $1,800 a month, that would be at age what?
67.
All of this is to say that you've got a whole bunch of money that's tied up in real estate, obviously. And you're single now?
I'm single, and California property tax is my greatest expense.
Of course it is. Well, but you live in a great place, so tough luck.
First world problem.
So, I mean, here's the question I have for you. What sounds better? Let's go through a couple of options. One, work for 2 more years, keep socking away money. And I'd like you to, in socking away money, I wouldn't necessarily want you to put so much money away in retirement. I'd love for you to build up that emergency reserve fund a little bit. But you could do that for a couple of years, get your $500 a month, and also save some extra money. That's number one choice. Number two, how would you feel if you kept working for a while, but then, your fail-safe would be to sell one of these properties, and probably, I'm sorry to say, the one that you just refinanced at 2.8% because you've got a bunch of money in there. So would you be willing to sell one of these rental properties?
I would. I was kind of wondering, since I refinanced them and the rates are down now, one of your other shows said just letting that extra money sit in an account will make it vanish. And that's my fear. Now that my monthly payments are lower, I don't want that money to just vanish on pedicures and good wine. And
Wait a minute. If it's good wine, I might be on board. Pedicures, definitely not. We'll get back to Portia in just a minute. During the break, you may want to go to JillOnMoney.com and check out the resources section and let us know if you have an addition to that section. Jill on Money will be right back.
.401ks, IRAs, refinancing, she covers it all. Back to Jill on Money with Jill Schlesinger.
You're back. It's Jill on Money, and we are here answering your financial questions. And, I love having you guys on the air. It's so fun because everyone's got a cool story, right? No matter what, you may not think your story is that interesting, but we always think it's interesting. And we also often will uncover a part of your financial life that maybe you didn't think is that important. So maybe you call in and you say, oh, I really want to talk about my retirement or a pension. And we find out that you've got something else going on that's very important, like I haven't done my estate planning yet, or I'm underinsured, or some other financial issue. We get to clarify that if you come on the air. So we really do encourage you to do so. Right now, let's get back to Portia and find out what we will do with that pension. I think for you, what might be helpful is, not so much, I don't think you should do this job just for the pension, but I do think making 75 grand a year is real. And that is something that, I think that until you have a gap here, right? Because you have a gap between, 60 and 67, you might have to make some tough decisions. You don't have, most of your money, most of your net worth is held in real estate. One of your properties is the property that's performing. The first property, the 880, where you're breaking even, that's the one that's not performing so great. So I think there's a couple of things to consider. To get to your $10,000 a month that you need, we know that 7 of that is already in place, right? Because that's the fourplex. So where are we getting your $3,000 a month? You can work to get that $3,000 a month and stay in your $75,000 a year job. And the side benefit is that you're going to get a pension if you stick it out a couple more years. Again, I wouldn't do that just for the pension. I'm just saying that having a job at age 60, a job that and you can live with is not a bad thing. So then I think the other option would be either you have to raise the rent on that first property in the next year or two. But I have a feeling that if you don't raise the rent and it does not start bringing money in over the next couple of years, that you're going to be faced with the idea of, should I sell it? And I think that's a question to ask yourself. And I think if you were to sell it, let's just say it's 2 years from now, okay? And now you're 62 years old and you've got 5 years before you need to collect Social Security. If you were to sell that and it's, let's say it's $1 million or even if it doesn't grow by that much, but you've got this money, you pay the capital gains tax that's due, you do your recapture, you got 400 or 500 grand. That is what you can use between age 62 and 67. And you use that to live on. And you use it to live on, not just for pedicures and for good wine, but you invest it. You'd open a brokerage account and maybe you'd get some help, maybe you wouldn't. But I think that's kind of that's how I would think about it. Does that sound like kind of, again, it really depends on how much you want to work and how much you really despise going into the office. So tell me, of those choices, what do you think?
I bounce back and forth, and that's why I reached out to you.
What about healthcare?
Yeah, what do you get? When are you getting health care from when you stop working to Medicare?
I'm going to have to buy it on the open market.
Yeah, so you're not going to. So I don't really want you to stop working so fast, because it seems to me that you need some non-retirement money built up to do some stuff. Okay, so I'm saying that even if you hate work, I would gut it out. And I'm sure you're not going to hate it as much once you start doing it again. Maybe your boss would allow you to work from home a little bit and you can say, well, gas prices are high and I'd like to be able to get a little flexibility. And who knows? Everybody wants good employees now. So maybe you can negotiate that. But, you're going to have to pay for health insurance. Will you get, with the county's pension, are you able to purchase health insurance cheaper?
I don't know. You mean once I retire?
Yeah.
I don't know. I probably should find a good partner who's got health insurance.
Yeah, well, listen, this is what happens is as you get older, you realize you choose a partner based on health insurance, real estate, and pension. Those are the three things. So that's what you have to really So I think you've got a few things to consider. And I think you should go back to work when they say come back to work. And I would keep working. Mark, do you agree with that? Keep working until it becomes so horrible she can't. Otherwise, she's got to sell that first property, right?
Oh, yeah, 100%. That was my thinking all along. She either keeps working, and if she doesn't want to keep working, that first property has to go.
Yeah, gotta go. Because you're going to need the cash. Really, once you get to 67, you're in great shape, because then you're going to have, I'm sure that the the rent will keep rising, in general. So even, if it's 7,000 net now, if it's 7,500, and then maybe you got 500 a month from a pension, there's 8,000. Then you've got your 1,800 from your Social Security. I know that has to be taxed, but you're in good shape at that point. If you really don't want to work, then you got to sell that first property. And then you're going to have to spend some of that money down just to live until Social Security kicks in. I'm a worker. I keep working. I'm voting for the work. You do what you want to do, though. You do you, Portia.
Thank you,
as Lisa would say. Do you have your estate documents done? Is there anyone you got to take care of? What else is going on?
No, I don't. I have all my estate documents done. I have an adult son that I have a special needs trust set up for, and that's it.
Well, you sound like you're in good shape. So let us know what you'd end up doing. I'm rooting for work. I like real estate, but that property has to work better for you. If you, like Portia, have a retirement question, we'd love to hear from you. Just go to JillOnMoney.com and click on the Contact Us button. Jill on Money will be right back. You're back. It's Jill on Money. And before we make the break for the end of the hour, let's read one of your emails. This is from John, who writes, my wife and I have taken out a mortgage. The interest rate is 2.875%. but it's for a project that we've now canceled. Should we just repay the money? Or is there a safe, quote unquote, he puts safe in quotation marks, investment that we should consider with that money? It's about $100,000. Thanks for your advice. Well, gosh, I mean, I don't know. It depends. Like, is this a fixed interest loan? Is this variable? And how long are we talking about? I mean, there is something kind of intriguing as a possibility, an arbitrage, if you will. I guess that you could take this loan, invest it, and maybe make more. But on the other hand, do you want that risk? What if the market fell out of bed? What if your diversified portfolio looked horrible? I don't know. It's like this would be great in a situation where you could say, I'm borrowing the money at 2.875%, and I knew for sure I could earn 5% doing something else. I don't know if that's something you want to do or not. I'd love to know a little bit more about why you canceled the project and what else is going on in your financial life. It may not be worth it in the long run for you to assume this risk. On the other hand, I know that 2.875% is so juicy. What do you think made them cancel the project? I don't know. All right, follow up with some more information, John. That way we can better assist you and figure out if there's anything else that you should do with that $100,000. Maybe not. Maybe yes. Give us some more information or come on the air with us. That would be really fun. All right, it's Jill on Money, and we've got a whole nother hour of fun ahead of us. Isn't that great? I know I'm looking forward to it. If you've got a question, go to jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
It's the weekend, and that can only mean one thing. You're listening to Jill on Money, the show that takes the mystery out of your finances. Here's your host, Jill Schlesinger.
You're back. It is hour number 2 of the Jill on Money show. And, I always think about, we say, I'm take the mystery out of your financial life, which we do try to do. But what we're really attempting to do, Mark and I, is use the experience and the education that we have as certified financial planners to help you make the next best financial decision for you, not for anyone else. That's why we really do encourage you to send us your notes with the details of what's going on. It's impossible for me to give these weird rules of thumb that, so many sort of, you have no debt, you should have this debt, you should never do this, you should always do this. It's just not the way that the world works. So if you give us a holler and we hear your story and the facts and the details of your life, we can customize what our advice is to you and what's going on in your and what's relevant to your financial life. Right now, we are going to talk to Jennifer from Connecticut. She says she's got some questions about her overall game plan and retirement. So let's talk to Jennifer. Hi, Jennifer. How can we help you out?
So I have a question for you going forward on retirement contributions.
Okay.
A little backstory. My husband and I moved from Florida to Connecticut about 4 years ago, and I stopped working at the time. When I did that, we reduced so we weren't getting any federal tax taken out because we have 4 small kids. So
wait a minute. How old are the kids?
7, 5, 3, and 1.
Mark, don't you ever complain about anything ever again. Got that? Let's just do that. Let's do that slowly. 7, 5, 3, yep. And 1.
Yeah. And I have an 18-year-old stepson, but.
Oh, my God. All right. So you have all these kids. And 4 years ago when you moved, you stopped what did you reduce withholding and so that you kept more of your check, or did you
Correct.
actually did you stop it altogether?
It wound up being stopped altogether.
Okay.
Because he didn't have a whole lot being taken out anyway.
Okay. How much was he making at the time?
Probably around 60. He's making 80 now.
Got it. And are you working now? Or how could you work? You've got 100 children in your...
No, I'm back at work. I work from home, so it's great.
Oh my God. You're like a little old lady in the shoe. Oh my God. How much do you earn now, Jennifer?
I'm at 117.
Have you been withholding since, or like how did this all work out? Give me the timeline.
Yeah, no, we made some mistakes. So I didn't realize, I guess, when setting up your withholdings, there's the little button to click that there's multiple incomes.
Yeah.
So even when I went back to work and I put in the 4 dependents, there was no federal tax coming out. So the first year it was fine because I only worked a half a year and the income that we had combined, it wasn't a problem.
Okay.
The second year, it wasn't a problem because we got solar panels installed and the federal credit we got covered us.
Okay.
Last year, it became a problem.
Okay. So last year, meaning we're talking tax year 2021, and
Correct.
You filed already?
Yes, we filed and we owed about $15,000.
Okay. That's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. So thank God. Okay.
No. So we've got it set up going forward.
Okay.
That we're getting the proper taxes taken out and all that. So
Okay.
we're fine going forward.
Mm-hmm.
However, to do that, we reduced our, I'm a federal employee, so I'm in the TSP. My husband is a federal contractor, so he just has a 401k.
Okay.
So we reduced both of those down to 5%. I had been doing the max, the 20,500 or 19,500 at the time.
Yep.
And he was doing, I think, like 10% of his income.
Okay.
So we reduced that down to the full match for both of us. In combined retirement, so at the start of March, I pull our numbers once a month. I go through each of our accounts and just kind of track our numbers.
Okay.
At the start of March, we had just over $1 million in retirement.
Wow. Wait a second. How old are you guys?
I'm 40 and my husband's 38.
$1 million? 4 kids? That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, I started at 18, so.
Oh my God.
And I maxed
Fantastic.
it out.
Okay.
Going forward, like I'm due, as a federal employee, you get certain raises, based on time, not on anything else.
Sure.
So like later this summer, I get a raise. It's a small raise, about $3,000. What should we do with that? We have money. We did pull from our emergency fund to pay the taxes, and we're working to get that balance back up to where it needs to be.
How much is in the emergency reserve right now?
Right now, just over 10,000.
What is the ideal amount? Like, what do you need? What's your 6 months of expenses?
So our home's paid for.
What?
Yeah.
Wow. No wonder you have no money in non-retirement assets.
Yes.
Hold on a second. Home is paid for. How much is it worth?
Probably $575.
Continue. Okay, so what do we have to get up the emergency reserve from? What do we have to get it up to?
I'd say 25,000.
Okay. So $1 million in retirement, 10 grand in emergency reserves. There's no other non-retirement assets, right?
A little bit in different savings accounts. So we set aside every paycheck for travel, a new car, Christmas gifts, birthday parties, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, we have a bucket of money for those things.
Yeah, but that's going to be spent.
Correct. Yeah. No non-retirement mutual funds or anything.
Yeah, no non-earmarked funds, right? Because you need that money. Okay, and how much is, just so I know, just in case the blank hit the fan, how much would you say is total in those savings accounts for all those different things?
Probably 25 to 30,000 right now.
All right, so really if something horrible happened, you do have that because you wouldn't be taking so many vacations. But yes,
Right,
okay.
exactly.
But we just still want to build that up. Okay, so now, given that you have reduced your retirement contributions down to 5%, how is the cash flow?
We're fine. I mean, if we could increase our spending every week, that would be great. But we would also hit that number every week. It's funny how your spending grows when the money you have to spend grows.
Yeah, we call that lifestyle creep. Like all of a sudden, it's costing more to me to live my life than it did when I was making no money because I just spend on more stuff.
Right.
Okay. So any money in the children's names right now?
We have very small bank accounts. Whenever they get a $50 check for their birthday or Christmas, I toss that in. And they don't know about it. We do have a 529 for each of them.
Okay.
The 7-year-old has the most. She's got about 13,000. And then the other 3 are right around between 1,500 and 2,000, depending on the market.
And are you using pre-tax retirements or using Roth retirements for you guys?
Everything's Roth. The
Everything's
TSP's Roth, our IRAs are Roth, and my husband's 401k is Roth. And then also we're paying about $40,000, $45,000 a year for the nanny right now.
Good God.
We'll have her for another probably year and a half. And then the youngest will be 3 or 4. So she'll be in preschool. So the plan would be at that point, funnel some of that money into 529s for the kids, $20,000 a year probably.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can also possibly use that money at that time to increase my 401 or TSP, my husband's 401k.
We'll get back to Jennifer in just a moment during the break. Go to JillOnMoney.com, and all you need is to bookmark that website because there's so much rich, beautiful content that we create all the time. You'll want to check back, read the latest on the blog, or maybe check out various TV stuff. Check it out, okay? JillOnMoney.com. We will be right back with more of your questions.
Back to Jill on Money, where Jill Schlesinger helps you take the mystery out of your finances.
You're back. It's Jill on Money, and we are here answering financial questions for you. And, they can really run the gamut. I know that many of you are thinking about what happens if the student loan repayment just never happens. What would that mean for me? Should I not pay my student loans off? And, Mark and I have talked to a lot of people about this because in many respects, it seems stupid to pay down a 0% loan. On the other hand, if you think that the interest rate clock is going to start up again this fall or early next year, maybe you want to start paying down this 0% loan so that you can shave years off of that. That's something that really depends on what alternatives we have with the money or the free cash flow that's in your life. If you've got a question like that, we'd love to hear from you. Just go to JillOnMoney.com, JillOnMoney.com. Click the Contact Us button because that's how you get to us. Ask that question, and don't forget, at the end of that form, it says, would you be willing to come on the air with us? If you say yes, then Mark will arrange to get you on the air. And that's where the fun just begins. We don't just have fun reading your emails and answering them. We love having you on the air with us. That's why we are delighted to go back to Jennifer from Connecticut, who's got some retirement questions and just about her overall game plan. So let's get back to Jennifer. Are you going to be completely bummed out when I tell you to just forget about your kids for a second and let's take a deep breath?
Sure.
Because, I don't want to think about them. I think about them too often. I get where you're going in terms of, sort of looking at the nanny as a child expense and then reallocating it to a different child expense. So I know that that's what sort of seems to make sense. However, I think you guys have done a great job of accumulating this $1 million in retirement funds. I really would love to see you guys go back to the max for each of you, for both of you rather. And I really would love to see that because, look, you got 4 kids. It's going to be like almost impossible to just save enough money to put 4 kids through school. You're going to have 2 in school at the same time for a couple of years, just when you feel like you've got some, it's like on a rolling 2-year basis, you're going to have 8 years of like a horror show. I know that you want to do that, but I guess I'm wondering if you can try to get the 401k up a little bit more. Even Mark, what would you be if they don't max the 401k and the TSP? what level would you feel comfortable them getting to before they start putting money away for the kids? At what percentage do you think?
At least 10, maybe even more. But I'd also like them to have some non-retirement assets. They don't really seem to have much going on in that department.
Yeah. So here's what I was thinking. It's exactly where I was going with this, that, I'm wondering that, you get this $3,000 raise. Just do me a favor. Then just pop your contribution level. Just go to like 7%. See how that feels. Okay.
Oh, yeah. I mean, right now I can bump it up to 6%.
Why don't we try to do 6?
Okay.
Then? For both of you or just you?
For just me right now. Yeah. Just the way that we've been kind of waiting for the federal tax stuff to settle down, just to kind of see. So where we are right now with our spending money, like I can easily bump it up 6% and we wouldn't notice it. And then I think I did the math and I can get it to like 8 or 9% when I get the raise.
Is that including putting money into your emergency reserve or instead of putting money in the emergency reserve?
It's instead of. My husband, okay. Yeah, I was going to say my husband has like a part-time gig. It doesn't net a whole lot of money, but he does get probably $1,500 every 3 or 4 months. So we're planning to throw that in to the emergency reserve. But
all right, let's do this. How about this? I'm going to split the difference with you. Go to 6% in your TSP, okay? And then when you get your raise, you can go to 7%, and any extra cash flow goes into the emergency reserve fund. You build that up, okay? When that gets to your, I would say your ideal level of whatever it is, 20 or 25 grand, then you turn back to your retirement accounts and you both are going to try to get to, I'm going to say 10, 12%, somewhere around there. Okay. I think that'll be fine. You'll be good. And you've got a lot of money saved. So I don't want to discount that. Now, hopefully this gets you to the point where the nanny is kaput. I mean, you're going to still have, you're not going to have zero cost because the kids still are young, right? So let's say it goes from 45 to more like 15 for stuff, babysitters kind of thing. All right. So now we have $30,000. Now, what portion of that would you feel comfortable putting away for the kids? Like, I'm sort of feeling like that money that your husband gets on the side, like the side hustle money, that can just go into the 529 accounts. We can use that. But I think that you have to tell me how much you're willing to work relative to how much you want to save for these kids. Because obviously every dollar that is not going into your retirement or even your non-retirement and going towards the kids is kind of extends your work life. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know how you feeling about that. You have 4 kids. It's a long time. You got 20 years at least ahead of you, right? So just to get them through college, I would probably go 3/4 retirement, 1/4 education. Mark, what do you want to do?
It's about 30,000 you're saying to play with?
Yeah.
I mean, how important, they already have a good amount of money saved. They're going to keep saving. How important is funding college to you guys?
It's important. I was looking at it. I think in Connecticut, you can get up to $10,000 credit on your income tax. So I was definitely trying to hit that number just for those purposes.
Yeah. That's the Connecticut Higher Education Trust, or CHET. Yeah. That's a good plan.
Yeah.
Well, what if we did 10? How about if we did 10 for the kids and 20 for you guys?
That works. Focus that into the retirement accounts. And then once that's hit, then do the non-retirement stuff.
Yeah. That's exactly what I'm thinking. Because, listen, the non-retirement you can use for college. Listen, if you're going to have kids, you're making a good chunk of money, but you actually could potentially qualify for some financial aid and some grants and stuff just because the sheer numbers are phenomenal. And also because you have kids, you will have kids in school at the same time, right? So it's a little bit of a dance. So I think saving is a good idea. If we had $30,000, I think it's fair to say, if you put an extra 10 grand into his retirement, an extra 10 grand into yours, and then the extra 10 split among the kids, I think that's okay. Let me ask you some more critical questions, tell me about life insurance for these 100 children of yours.
Yeah, I've got that through work. I've got just a shy of $1 million on myself. And I'm not sure what my husband's is. I know it's multiple of his salary. I think it's 5 times his salary.
Okay. I mean, he should have probably $1 million also. If he can buy more, that would be good. And how about wills and power of attorney and that kind of stuff and healthcare proxy?
Yep, we've got all that taken care of.
Oh, you see, a happy Jill right here. I think you're in good shape, though. And I think that, it's like a bad lesson to learn, Jennifer, about the withholding. On the other hand, it could have been so much worse. I was getting prepared as you were telling the story that I was going to be like, oh, this is a real serious, like this. I thought it was going to be like 50 grand or something. So I think you're real, like weirdly lucky that it was what it was.
Oh, yeah. No, I was panicking, too. When I was seeing the numbers, I was like, oh, boy.
Yeah. Well, here we go. Right. Exactly. So, all right, let's do that then. Get that emergency reserve fund going, build up the retirement account, get the non-retirement assets, and start setting aside some moolah for the kids. If you, like Jennifer, need some help, maybe it's just another set of eyes. Maybe it's a big decision, but maybe it's a small decision. Or maybe you don't understand something that's been driving you crazy. Maybe you want a little explainer, a little hand-holding, some way for you to feel more confident about your own acumen. We would love to hear from you. There is a bunch of information on the website. We do have a ton of content, but it's really great when we hear from you directly. So JillOnMoney.com, that is the website, and we'd love to get you on the air. Okay, we'll be right back.
Do I invest here? Should I put my money there? Jill Schlesinger can help you. Back to Jill on Money.
You're back. It's Jill on Money, the program that attempts to take the mystery out of your financial life. Hey, are you thinking about going back into the labor force? I am really hearing a lot of stories about people who are over the age of 55 who maybe are spooked by the high prices that are out there. And they're thinking about maybe going part-time or jumping back into the labor force. If that's you, we'd love to hear from you because I like stories behind trends. So if that's something that you're considering and you're wondering whether or not to do it, give us a holler. Go to JillOnMoney.com, and click the Contact Us button. Right now, we are going to talk to Robert, who is on the line from Florida. Hi, Robert.
I think I've fallen into the category of your listeners that's looking for a sort of a checkup of sorts for kind of how we've laid things out so far with our retirement planning and get a sanity check if we're going the right direction.
Okay, I love a sanity check. Let's hear what's going on so far. First of all, how old are you, Robert?
I'm 38.
Are you single, partnered?
Married and one child who's 7.
And how old is your spouse?
Same age.
Do you both work?
No, I'm currently the only one who's employed. I'm in the military and have been so pretty much my whole working career. And so that's sort of influenced a lot of the things we've done from a retirement planning perspective and also kind of the vehicles we've used to save so far.
So in the military right now, how much do you earn?
I would say on my W-2, it's, I want to say probably like 110, 115-ish, that range for this past year.
And are you using the military savings for retirement?
I'm currently enrolled in the TSP. Based on when I entered service, I don't get any match. So I'm on the old legacy retirement system, which is fine. But since I've been in, I've elected to put away money in the TSP in addition to the regular Roth IRA and the spousal IRAs as well.
Got it. Okay. So how much are you putting right now into the TSP?
If I had to ballpark it, I would say about $12K a year at the Roth option.
And you also are doing $6,000 each for a Roth IRA for you and your wife?
Right. So the whole time we've been saving, we've always prioritized the regular Roth IRAs first and then TSP. But as I've gotten more senior, moved up the ladder a little bit, we've increased the Roth, the TSP as we went along.
Awesome. How much money's in the TSP right now?
About 115 total on my TSP side of things, maybe 30 to 40 of that is in the Roth side. I started off on the traditional since that was what was offered when I entered service, and then switched over to it a few years ago.
Okay. And what about your 2 Roth IRAs?
So I'd say in each Roth IRA, we're at about 160 to 165 each.
That's great. Any money saved for the kiddo at this point, or in any brokerage accounts?
So we keep about, I have an after-tax account that was just kind of passed down from years ago. So I only have about $6,000 in that, and just in VTI to keep it simple.
Yep.
And then we have a UTMA for my son with about $6,000 as well, that we put the gift money and things like that into.
Great. How long have you been in the military?
I'm coming up on 16 years.
You think this is it? You're going to hang in there and kind of live your career in the military? I'm just going to try to get the pension number.
I definitely plan to stay in excess of 20 years. And if I had to ballpark it based on an age, maybe into mid to late 40s or something like that. So anywhere from 20 to 25 total in service, I think is probably a pretty accurate ballpark for when I would like to at least stay around for that long.
Even if we said 10 more years, let's say, what would the pension be at that time if you were to leave the military?
I think using some of the calculators, I bet you it would probably be in the ballpark of 85 a year or so. The low end of 20, getting out 20 would be probably just under 50K, and in the middle of that around 60 or so, based on rank and time in service and things like that.
That's amazing. I mean, how much do you spend? You're good savers. You've got 24, 20. Well, you're putting a lot of money away. So how much do you think you need in terms of income for retirement?
When we take the savings component off of it, I would say 100 a year generating. I mean, I think that's probably be more than enough, and assuming I have don't have to owe on a mortgage or anything like that at that point in the future, that would help out a lot with that. But I'm fortunate where I don't have the exact plans for what I want to do with all that money in the future, but it would be nice to have the flexibility.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, like we've been talking to a lot of people who are not sure what their next step is, but it's sort of a similar timeline. I mean, I think obviously with a pension, it makes your whole planning part a lot easier, right? You're saving money and you have the pension. I'm sure that the pension is essentially going to cover at least half and maybe more of your expenses and your needs going forward, in which case then, you can go back to work and do something different, or your wife may want to do something at that point. Who knows? But, you'll have a lot of options. Do you own a home, or are you in military housing? What's the deal?
So I've got a mortgage on my home, and it's the only other debt I have is just the normal, one car payment situation. So
okay.
Everything's manageable.
Tell me about the house. How much is it worth?
It's hard to say with the current market. I would say probably around 430 on the current market.
Okay.
And I owe probably 280.
What's the rate on the mortgage? 2%?
Yes, ma'am.
Dude, come on. You're never moving.
I'm not planning on doing anything.
You're stuck in that house forever. How much is the, you said a car loan. How much is the interest on that car loan?
Just under 3%.
All right. Do you guys have any just sort of a general emergency reserve? I know we talked about the brokerage and the UTMA account. Is there an emergency fund, a savings account, little safety net there?
Yes, we've got as high interest as we can get in the current environment for savings accounts, and I would say generally about 6 months of expenses is what we've got.
Perfect. We'll get back to Robert in just a second. If you've got some issue that's been bugging you, maybe even keeping you up at night, why don't you let me and Mark be your stress relief? We're happy to do that. It's better than an antacid. Jill and Mark, to the rescue. JillOnMoney.com is where you can contact us. We will be right back.
401ks, IRAs, refinancing, she covers it all. Back to Jill on Money with Jill Schlesinger.
You're back. It's Jill on Money, the show that attempts to take the mystery out of your financial life. And the way we do that is we answer financial questions. But also, we have got a lot of content on the website that helps guide you. Every week, I try to update the blog. It's on something relevant, hopefully, the tax season, or it was college planning time, because we know that there's only a couple weeks left before people have to make their decisions about colleges. And of course, if there's an issue that is not on the website that we haven't covered on your behalf, just click the Contact Us button, and we would be delighted to answer your particular question that is relevant to you. That's what we do every single week here on the program. So go to JillOnMoney.com, click Contact Us. Right now, let's get back to Robert from Florida. Now, you've done all the hard work. Tell me what I can do for you. What is it that you think is what's bothering you, or what is concerning to you, or is there anything in particular you want us to weigh in on? Because I'll tell you what, you look like you're in great shape.
Well, I appreciate that. I think what I'm trying to think about is where the next dollar should go, if that makes sense. If going hard at the Roth TSP makes sense, or if I should parse that a little bit with the traditional. I've always erred on the side of using the Roth vehicle, because looking at the tax brackets, I think I'm not going to get myself to the lower tax bracket by switching to TSP. And I think all things considered, with the child credits and the married deductions, that the tax bracket I'm in right now is pretty good. And so I thought Roth was a good option.
I totally agree. All Roth all the time, for sure. I mean, look, it kind of depends on where you think this is going. If you said to me, you know what, I'm only going to work for 10 more years. That's it, in the military. And you want to build up a little cushion for the time before you get to 59 and a half, then that would argue for the next dollars to go into the brokerage account, right? Because you'd want to beef that up. But I'm not sure, look, it kind of if you want to split the difference, especially if you are going to step out of the military before 59 and a half, I think it would make sense to have a little money that's already been taxed that's accessible to you. So I think that would be the part of this. Is there any help from the military for the 7-year-old's college?
Right. So I did, thankfully, I did the paperwork and all the transfer requirements years ago. I've actually moved all that into my son's name. So that's kind of my primary plan for.
How much is in there?
So it's not necessarily a dollar amount. It just depends on what state you're in, and the GI Bill covers the state school and the rates based on where you live.
So you don't really have to. So forget about the UTMA account. No? Why I wouldn't put any money in there. I'd put all of my money in the brokerage account.
Right. And that I appreciate you bringing that up. I'm definitely not someone who wants to, I think, stop working and be completely done at mid to late 40s. But I think looking at flexibility to be done to mid to late 50s prior to that 59 and a half, that's kind of where I'm not sure where to cover myself, or if I should even be worried about saving for that particular window right now. And just
put it this way. It doesn't harm you to save for that window. I mean, as you noted, you're putting a ton of money away. So how's the cash flow right now with you putting money in your TSP Roth and then putting the two Roth contributions, right? This 24 grand a year. When you're done at the end of every month, is there more money or is it tight?
I would say that's kind of the money we have allocated for saving for the future right now. And then the rest goes to normal, paying for the kids' activities type of stuff.
Yes. We're going to limit. No activities for you. Daddy has to get a new job. It's not going to pay as much. Mark, how would you feel if we put a little bit less money, this instead of $24,000 a year into Roth retirement? Mark, how would you feel if he put took some of that money, $4 or $5 grand, and just put it in the brokerage account? Would that be okay?
I would probably do the 12 that he's doing in his
TSP. I would probably do the spousal for his wife since she's not working. And then I would take the 6 that he's doing for himself, and I would probably redirect that to the brokerage.
I agree. It's much more important for people who are going to be transitioning from whether it's the military or corporate life to a lower paying job to have an accessible pot of money that has already been taxed. And that's your brokerage account. So I would not put more money into the UTMA. And I agree. You can forget about, this may seem weird to you. You can ease up on your Roth IRA contributions and redirect that into your brokerage account. And you'll see how you go. Obviously, you do get increases in terms of your income, and maybe you'll go back to putting money into the Roth. But let's kind of see how it goes. And I would very much feel a lot better if that brokerage account had like $100,000 in it, when you're ready to start collecting your pension and change your career, than, 18,000 in there.
Okay, that makes sense. And I'm someone who likes kind of flexibility and options to go different directions. So that seems pretty pragmatic.
Okay, we have now created one more happy listener out there. If you would like to be among the happy listeners who get to ask us questions, just go to JillOnMoney.com, click the Contact Us button, and we will get your note. All right, we will be right back. You're back. It's Jill on Money. And before we finish the show, let's do one more question. We got a couple of different people who've been asking about I-bonds. Two different questions, one from David, one from Dawn, who want to know about I-bonds right now. Are they safe? And the question is, what do I think about that? So an I-bond, for those of you who don't know, they are issued by the federal government. And if you want to know how to access that, you just go to treasurydirect.gov. So it's a type of savings bond. If you go under the Treasury Direct website, it's a little clunky, as Mark has pointed out, but Series I or I bonds are basically linked to an inflation rate. So it's sort of a two-parter, because you have the fixed rate that stays the same for the life of a bond and an inflation rate. So bonds that are issued through this month, April 2022, the combined rate is 7.12%. And we'll get an announcement about what the new bonds will be paying after that, but I bet it's going to be more. It's kind of an interesting idea. I mean, these are basically 5-year bonds. You buy them electronically. You can do $10,000 per calendar year. And as I said, the site is a little clunky. There is a fee to get out of them if you get out of them before 5 years, but it's not that much. So I like I-bonds, and I'll be talking more about these when we get the new interest rate, but I think they're kind of a good way for you to be investing. Okay, that's it for the show. We want to remind you that Mark Talercio is the best executive producer in the world. Our music is composed by Joel Goodman, and please try to do something nice for someone else today. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.